we know that with both of them that we have great goalkeepers. And I think Dane has played really well again for both club and country. So it's really going to come down to, for me, like which personality and which qualities in goal will balance out everything that we're building with what we need for the team. And again, I feel like I can't make a wrong decision because I think both guys are high-level goalkeepers.
Canadian men's national team head coach Jesse Marsch earlier with Christian Jack. This is the state of the squad. We really went all out on the graphic, but it's a special segment where we're going to spend the next, or segments, we're going to spend the next 45 minutes going from goalkeeper all the way through. And if you've been paying attention on the One Soccer social media channels this week, we've been asking for your input with polls out, different debates. We are going to get to all of it. This edition of Match Night also being simulcast on YouTube, so please feel free to join in the conversation as well as we have Jordan and Christian walk us through some of the potential headaches or decisions for Jesse Marsch that he has to make from here, the Romanian and Welsh friendlies, and of course the World Cup just around the corner. So, goalkeepers, that's where we start. Dane Sinclair getting a lot of the minutes lately, but the question that we're asking is he the man for the job? Now, we want to specify here as we go head-to-head between Maxime Crépeau and Dane Sinclair that Dane has started 9 of the last 12 games for the men's national team. You can see the records almost identical. Slight edge for Sinclair with 1 extra clean sheet, with 1 extra game played. He has conceded 2 goals. And Christian, Jesse Marsch alone, or almost unprompted, brought up the penalties. And when you get to tournament football, that is going to be a factor, certainly. As we look at where we sit right now, is Dane Sinclair still the clear #1, or is Maxime Crépeau making a case because he's a bit hot and cold for club, but he's always been good for country?
Yeah, I don't think we're anywhere near the level where we can say there's a clear #1. I mean, I presented it to him. We've got the facts. They know the numbers are there. 9 out of the last 12. He started the Gold Cup. He finished the Gold Cup. But Jesse won't commit to a #1. And so I don't think we're anywhere close to being ability as a nation to say this player will play for us at the start of the World Cup on June 12th. You know, look, there's lots of ways to look into this. You know, it was interesting to me that Jesse unprompted brought up the penalties.
Yeah.
Certainly across the country, on social, there was a consensus that the country was disappointed with Dane in that shootout, which I think could be a little bit harsh, personally. But look, there's a lot of ways to look at this in terms of why right now we're where we are. Many people would say maybe that neither of them have taken it, but Jesse Marsch has alluded to it both privately and publicly to me a lot of times. He still thinks that Dane Sinclair is one of the most improved players from the start of the time he took over to now.
And that matters, being most improved. But I also like that Jesse Marsch doesn't need to make a decision right now. This is a good thing. Like, I know everyone at home wants to have their 11 that they can back and see the formation and really drive into the team and say, this is how we're going to play. But a year out or 9 months from the biggest sporting event in the world and you don't know who's going to start, but you kind of know the two, it's a great thing. Show me that you want to be the #1 guy to be in between the posts. So I like that. Who I favor at this point, this is what it is, and this is what the people are saying. I think Sinclair has the most promise, most potential, most improved, as you said, but Crépeau kind of has those big moments and the feel-good story. You can't go past, whenever I talk to people about Crépeau, they bring up Copa America. Because he just stood on his head. He had those moments. Every time that he has the maple leaf on his chest, there just seems to be like, oh, there's a save factor there. There's something where he's going to stand up on his hat. Or all the YouTubes you see of keepers doing like fly kicks and stuff like that. That's how you picture Crépeau. And Sinclair, even though he's doing all the right things and feeling better, people just love that. Maybe for your nation, you're standing on your head. So I like this competition. I like that we don't know right now, but I think Jesse Marsch isn't fazed by it.
What's interesting is that even if Jesse Marsch might be leaning one way, the supporters online certainly are not. As we take you to our first poll, this was posted much earlier in the week. We're even getting comments like this from Del Bertista. Y'all sleeping on James Pantemis better than Crépeau. I guess that's other. That's one of the 7%. Definitely Crépeau. He was amazing during the Copa America. Was a comment from Alex Shea. Matt Watson from Vancouver said when Sinclair made an important save, he clearly leans towards Crépeau, as well as did 66% of those who responded to this poll.
Wow.
So where do you think that comes from, KJ? Because there's always recency bias.
Yeah.
Back-to-back shootouts, Canadian Shield, and then into the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
The goalkeeper of the losing record is Dane St. Clair. So you're going to say, well, what about the other guy? What can he do in a shootout? Do you think it's recency bias? Is there maybe something a little deeper there?
Well, first of all, St. Clair's made a lot of good saves, big saves for Canada.
Sure.
He made a huge save when they were on the ropes 1-0 down in the first 10 minutes against Mexico, and it could have been out of sight. So where does it come from? Look, it's a fascinating number. I think what Jordan alluded to is really important. You know, Maxime Crepeau has done very little wrong for Canada. And in a big tournament where the country got to see all the games and we had millions of people watching those matches at the Copa America, and you could see what Maxime Crepeau did, I think a lot of people across this country go, that's our number one. I want that guy playing at the World Cup, playing against the best teams, in the biggest stadiums, in the biggest site. And then if you're a coaching staff, you say, OK, well, Maxime Crepeau, in a way, lost his job because they think Dane St. Clair produced a better style during that moment and improved a lot. Now, that's the glass half full. And, you know, the glass half empty is that they felt Maxime Crepeau lost his job at the end of the season last year to Portland, and that's why they wanted to reward someone like Dane St. Clair. But the facts are the facts that Maxime Crepeau for Canada under Jesse Marsch has done very little wrong. Marvellous against France, brilliant against Argentina, had big moments. And I think that's why the country who, and I don't mean this in a negative way, are just not sitting at home every week watching Minnesota United and Portland Timbers games.
Yeah. No, fair. I think when I look at it, too, just taking it a step further as a former player, there's like sometimes chemistry that happens with keepers and back lines that you just can't explain. The intangibles that you can't. You can have the same type of keeper, but one keeper might just perform well with that back four, and everyone just feels good. Or might just have that big save. It's almost the same when you look at strikers as well. Sometimes there's a striker that looks so out of place, but always finds the back of the net, whether it be in the 10th minute or the 80th. So you play them and you build a team around them because you know they're going to produce a big moment. I think that's what we kind of see with Crepeau. St. Clair's an excellent keeper that's getting better and better each time. But again, when you ask people in the streets, when you talk to people at the gas station, when everyone's crazy about this team, they think about Crepeau and kick saves and all that he does. St. Clair can do those same things, but he doesn't have that same CV or that same recency bias that Crepeau has right now. That could change in the next 9 months, but I think that's why Crepeau has won so many hearts.
Part of my job also as I'm fascinated is listening so much to when Jesse Marsch speaks. Yeah. Like, we watch a lot with jurors, we get given the evidence of the games. But when I ask Jesse Marsch about that and he goes into Dane St. Clair's been very good and then transitions into what makes Crepeau, and then he suddenly starts to talk about what we might need on the team as a balancing act to different things.
Yeah. Good point.
There are little pieces of information as jurors we need to like, oh, what's that evidence mean? What does he mean by that? And I can only surmise, I might be wrong, but what I think there is that he is looking for leadership. And what Maxime Crepeau is a leader.
Yes.
And he's looking for those moments and going, okay, yeah, maybe my team did look a little bit immature in certain moments during Gold Cup, lacking big players.
Yeah.
And the one thing about Crepeau is he's a leader. And then another thing about Crepeau is the pedigree he has, to your point about how the other players look at him. I'm not saying Dane St. Clair doesn't have that, but Max is more experienced, and he's had a little bit more of those reference points to get that kind of credibility from the dressing room.
And that matters when you're trying to win a game, when you're trying to go far in a tournament. As much as St. Clair, we can just rave about him, and I will, in terms of potential, you think about what can you do now? You're not thinking, okay, his age and maybe the next World Cup. You're thinking about this window, this World Cup, and what that could be. So if I had to say where it falls right now, Crepeau probably inches a little bit, but that's not to say that St. Clair's out of the race.
All right, well, if you like this type of chat, and you're not gonna get enough in 45 minutes, fear not, because we do this on the regular on One Soccer Direct, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday next week, if I'm getting my dates right. One Soccer Direct, the best news, debates, live Q&As, and more in the country. That's just factual. We couldn't make it the slogan otherwise. When we come back, up the pitch we go with the backline defenders as the chat, state of the squad on match nights.
Here we go. Group A or Group B?
2A, 1B.
Allergies, bees.
Next kid.
Hey, pollen.
Application is done. Just waiting for the submit window. Whatever happens, I love you.
Oh my gosh, I'm feeling good about this.
They're in. Oh, yes.
Poor cable internet connection. We're not in.
When the stakes are high, why rely on cable internet? Switch to TELUS Pure Fiber, Canada's most reliable internet technology.
Your kids will need binders, pens, athletic shoes.
This is intense. How are you so calm?
I'm ordering everything from Walmart.
Glue. Give us a spare pen.
Talk to me in 2 hours.
We're still gonna be here. Unicorn eraser.
This ultimate mouth-watering moment is brought to you by the big, bold, ultimate taste of Ultimate Chicken Hot Dogs, only from Maple Lodge Farms.
Think of all the stories that have started right here. Honeymoons. Long overdue honeymoons. Seeing the baby.
Ooh.
Vegas baby. The people named Doug.
I'm Doug.
Making that seismic shift from work mom to vacation mom. Whatever brought you here, whether you're starting your adventure or coming back from one, we know the flight isn't the whole story. It's where your story takes off.
Dear supporters, you know who you are and where you come from. Local, passionate, undeniably Canadian. You are the soul, heartbeat, substance, community. This is for you with gratitude, made in Canada, for all the world to see. So go for it, grow your ranks, and get stuck in.
We know that Alphonso always has the ability to play further up the pitch. The way we kind of rotate our tactics when we're with the ball, we want him to get further up the field and be a real attacking player. So we're constantly evaluating, what's the best spot for him. I still think the defensive foundation for us as a group is really important. But if Richie or Sam Adekugbe continue to establish themselves, then there is potential to use Alphonso in different positions higher up the pitch where he can be more an outright attacking player. But again, I think the foundation that we've created in the team is so much about how sound and good we can be defensively.
This is State of the Squad on match night, and this exact conversation was probably made 5 years ago, might have even been made 8 years ago. Alphonso Davies, where do we play him? We still don't have an answer, and the supporters even are split right down the middle, so we can't even seek guidance from them. Where do we play him? Is he a left back? Half of you say yes. Is he a left wing? Half of you say yes. Well, 2%, what's that, goalkeeper? Number 9? I don't know what the other.
Remember where he played in the 2022 World Cup against Morocco?
Excellent.
They played him on the right.
All right. KJ is representing the other 2%.
No, I'm definitely not representing it.
Let's not do that.
Okay, so if we don't seem to know, and Jesse March hints that, look, it's Alphonso Davies. He can kind of play wherever he wants. But at some point, we keep saying it, eventually it will be true, he's going to have a defined role. If we were playing a knockout game tomorrow, and I hate the we, so if they were playing a knockout game tomorrow, I apologize, where would you put Alphonso Davies? Left back, left wing, or other, KJ?
It's a knockout game, and imagine it's a top opponent. I think left back. Look, we've talked about this a few weeks ago, and I was leaning towards seeing him further higher up the pitch. But I think more people think that it's more important to understand what I think they're going to do than what I would do.
Sure.
I still think when you listen to what Jesse Marsh is saying, and he used the word foundation at least twice there in that little clip, their defensive foundation is so important to him. And that, in his mind, is Alistair Johnston, Moise Bombito, Derek Cornelius, and Alphonso Davies. Now, we can get into the fact that Alphonso Davies hasn't produced as an offensive threat under Jesse Marsh yet. But what Jesse Marsh would say is that how comfortable he is with him being at left back and keeping those clean sheets, which are so important. As we know, this country will be defined by what they do at the World Cup. So I think that is probably the answer, although I still think, we can get into this later with the midfield, is that one of the big conundrums around this team is how do you break down teams in low blocks? You couldn't do it in the Gold Cup, and maybe that's where you think about against, quote-unquote inferior opposition, you're moving forward.
I think it's so difficult as a manager because when you have the best player that's ever played for Canada I think every time he plays, you want to be like, you maximize his energy, his potential. Every single time. You don't want to be like, oh, he used 70%. And that's why I feel like he should play high up the pitch. Specifically of how Marsh plays, how he wants to be on the front foot, how he wants to go and be direct and get in the face of the opposition. We've seen Canada press against Guatemala with 10 men. Pressing is just a part of their DNA. Winning back the ball high, being aggressive 1v1, that's the way to do it. So when I look at this team, and you mentioned foundational piece, Larea can do that job, Adekube could do that job, Basong could do that job. Of course, it's going to take maybe a certain day and a moment to be like, who is the guy to do it? But you know who can't do the job better on the left wing? Alphonso Davies is the guy to do it. I don't think there's a player to do it better than what he could potentially do if you trust him in that spot. So, okay, all is not lost. What did you say, June 12th? If you're playing him at left back and he's maybe wearing the captain's armband and he's going up and down that left side, cool. But there's always going to be a part of me that thinks he can maybe change the game at left wing that he just can't do at left back.
Quickly, though, if you're playing right back against Alphonso Davies and you know that Canada are favourite to win that game in the World Cup and you're playing for the other team, and you see him coming from a left wing back, left back position, coming quickly in transition, moving faster, is it easier to defend him at that moment, or is it harder to defend him at that moment than if he's playing higher up and everything is quickly at source and the ball comes to him and you're there right away?
I understand what you're getting at, and I think it's probably easier defending him at a left wing position, but also what I think about is obviously when Alphonso Davies has speed and space, that's when he's most dangerous.
Yeah.
But I also think there's so many matches where you look at him and the halftime comes and he's made 2 runs that maybe led to a cross. And I just, in my heart and my soul, I just feel like he's wasted there. Because I want to see him at a point, even if he gets the ball 7 times at his feet and he runs at a defender, I would rather that. If Marsh's system was made for a low block and maybe there's space to attack, cool. But everything is front-facing. Everything is, hey, you get the ball and teams are playing. We've seen them do it against Argentina, the Netherlands, France. Everyone wants to get in their face, win the ball high at the pitch. There's no one I want more on that left side than Alphonso Davies smelling the breath of a right back. That's what I want.
All right, let's get to some fan comments. Arc_on, the answer is yes, which I quite enjoyed. Ideally left wing, but left back is great too, says EQ More 75. Just be healthy and fit and fast.
Yeah, we want that.
Not asking for much, just healthy, fit, and fast.
Nice.
Matt Reimer says, change the formation, curveball, to 3-4-2-1, deploy Fonzie as a left wing back. I think this kind of formation just works better with our current squad. And this from Chris Paul, left back, it's his natural position. When he's fit, he's arguably one of the best at it in the world. So, with the debate of where he should play, and it will keep happening. It will keep happening heading into the 2030 World Cup. The question that we want to ask now, Jordan, is what have we learned about Alphonso Davies in these big moments, regardless of where he's playing? When the spotlight is the brightest, the stage is the biggest, what have we learned about Canada's captain?
We learned that obviously he's so dynamic, and I think that was reaffirmed. I think everyone always knew that, but what I've learned and what I've looked at when I watch this team is that he needs the consistency. So if it is left back, play him there week in, week out, or every time they're together. It's not club football. Every time that they meet, play him at that left back position. Look, KJ, all is not lost if June 12th comes and Alphonso Davies is healthy and is at a left back position and doing what you said, running at the right backs or creating crosses. That's fine. But I also think you cannot have a situation like the last World Cup where sometimes he's playing right wing, he's playing cam, center. You're not going to get the most out of him. And I think it's very difficult. Not many players that I know or that I played with or that I see could just jump from position to position and give quality. You need that consistency, and I think that's what's been reaffirmed as of late.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating because he's not going to play for Canada for a year. I just don't expect him to play till March.
Yeah.
So you think about that, it's a long time. Think about what's going on and what's developing and how much they keep talking about the squad being broadened and different leaders stepping up, and Jonathan David and now Stefan Eustaquio, different things. He's going to come back into that squad as a captain that's already evolved so much in a year without him being there. And that's difficult. Yeah. It's not only difficult as a player, it's difficult to anything. If you think about any time in life, if you're away from a group for a year, he has to evolve himself back into that squad and get the trust back of his players, what he can do. He has to be one of 11, not one of one. And I think that's really the next step for him to be able to do that. Now, he's at an unbelievable club that shows the ability to do that every week, team first. But I think that is the #1 priority. That for me, and then we'll see him grow.
Well, 1 of 11, but also 1 of 4 if you have him in the back line. If you don't have him in the back line, let's stop talking about left backs for 2 minutes and talk about 2 center backs and a right back. Are those positions locked in? 2024 was the year of the emergence of the Canadian backline. 2025 has been a parade of injuries so far, but when everyone's fit, everyone's healthy, Johnston, Bombito, Cornelius, like, is that locked in, or is there still some room to tinker, KJ?
It's locked in for me. And I think it's a problem if it's not. I think if they don't have Alistair Johnston and they don't have Cornelius and they don't have Bombito, I'd be concerned. And I think there's other areas. Nico Segur can play there. Yeah. Luke Dufour-Giroux coming forward and stepping up. Derek Cornelius needs to play, and whether he gets another move or not, but he's been excellent as a leader there. He was a leader in the Gold Cup. In the Gold Cup. But that man there, for me, Moise Bombito, is just a gem. And I'm hopeful he's back in October to play in Quebec, which will be really special for him, because I think Canada is still yet to understand just how good he is. So, like, I would have that locked in.
It is locked in. Like, all chips forward. That is, honestly, the back four we kind of know, but I'm hoping that Jesse Marsh is watching this, wherever the camera is, and just saying, maybe push Alphonso Davies higher. But KJ's so right. Like, you know the back four and the foundational pieces. Like, he brought it up just in the conversation with you right there, and it's so important. And that's why, you remember, you reminded everyone, that's why he took the job as well, right? Like, the back four, it's the pillar. That's what you build from. And then the rest you kind of explore and you can flirt with, but you need a team that is resolute, and that's what that back four gives you.
Important clarification. Is this Valor in the playoffs in March locked in?
Who's this guy today? What is he on?
Different level of locked in?
I'm hurt. No, but I'm hurt by Valor.
You're doing a lot of work here.
That's a different conversation.
Listen, I step off this set for a few months, and he comes in the booth with me. I come back and he's demanding cameras now. Like, he's changed. Gone is our steel lunch pail, sweet Jordan. He's a full TV.
I went from beginner to intermediate, baby. I stepped up a little bit, bit by bit.
All right, we got to take a break. Before we get there, let's remind you of the upcoming dates for Canada's international window in Europe. Bucharest is where they will play their first match. It is September the 5th. It is at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and then they're in Wales. KJ, they go to Wrexham someday? Canada? It's like to see that?
Not really.
KJ, not interested in Wrexham in the slightest. You know what KJ is interested in?
A little bit.
Midfielders. That's next on Match Night.
We've already got tons of WestJet points.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Should we?
I'm booking it.
Your next travel story is waiting. Make it happen with the all-new WestJet Rewards.
For too long, we've been told that greatness comes from somewhere else. Sorry, that ends now. We are the Canadian Premier League, proudly built for you and by you across this sovereign land, ready to take on the beautiful game on our terms. We may be young, but give us time and underestimate us at your peril. We'll keep grinding until everyone knows exactly who we are. Rosters filled with homegrowns, Canadian kids who just needed a chance, with dreams as vast as our horizons, made right here in Canada for all the world to see. Season 7 is here. We are the Canadian Premier League. Get stuck in.
Here we go. Group A or Group B?
2A, 1B.
Allergies, bees.
Next kid.
Hay. Pollen.
Application is done. Just waiting for the submit window. Whatever happens, I love you.
Oh my gosh, I'm feeling good about this.
They're in. Oh, yes.
Poor cable internet connection. We're not in.
When the stakes are high, why rely on cable internet? Switch to TELUS Pure Fiber, Canada's most reliable internet technology.
This run here, I think Steph now comes back into the team. It was a shame that Porto wouldn't release him after the World Club Championship to come back with us. But I think Steph is also a really important player for us, a really important personality, and certainly a great leader. So he'll be wearing the armband. He's been the vice captain since I've been here, and I think he's ready to take over the team in all the right ways and help us in these next few windows.
So an interesting bit of news today with Jesse Marsh in conversation with Christian Jack. Stefan Eustaquio will be wearing the captain's armband for the upcoming, and there was no hesitation either. It was, he will be wearing the captain's armband. What there might be a little bit more questions about these days, KJ, is he a lock in midfield? It's hot and cold at Porto. The depth at that position is stronger than ever. And when you look at how often he's been deployed when he's available and fit, it's been a non-starter. But who plays with him is one of the many questions that Jesse Marsh is going to try to answer here. You have so many different candidates to take that role and different types of players too to try to complement it. But when you think about the depth chart, is he still far and away #1 in central midfield, Stefan Eustaquio?
Yeah, absolutely for me. I mean, I was surprised when he didn't get when he got dropped in the Gold Cup. In the Nations League game. I was really surprised in that. Like, I know why Jesse Marsh, and he got it right against the US. Like, Fournier was excellent, but he's got a club situation he has to sort out. He hasn't been starting for Porto. Strong rumours that he's on the move. I'm hearing as well that that's probably going to happen. Wherever he goes, he will be a marvellous addition to this team, and I think he's as important to Canada as anybody. And I really mean that, like anybody. You know, if he's not playing in midfield for Canada, and I saw it in my own eyes in Qatar, he wasn't fit, and Canada's World Cup demise was contributed to that. He was nowhere near ready to be at the level that he was at. So, yeah, you know, wrap him up in cotton wool and make sure that he's ready to play at the World Cup, because for me, he's a stone-cold lock as a midfield leader and captain, or maybe captain.
Everyone talks about sixes and, like, what do they really do? Like, what do they do well? But you notice someone when you take them out of the team, and then you're like, okay, well, that's what he does. It's the intangibles. It's all those little details. I also think when you're playing the Honduras, and no disrespect to the Honduras, when you're playing those teams in CONCACAF, you're like, okay, well, maybe you can have a two-man midfield and not have a leader in there. But if you're going to play someone of consequence, someone that can beat you and burn you, you need someone in the midfield, protecting Bombita, protecting Cornelius, but also urging players to go on and be brave, and that's what he does. For me, that's the biggest X factor about Eustaquio. You look at how he plays passes, I love it. You look at the ground that he covers, fantastic. That he's always getting into that area that is just dog work for a midfielder, where you make that triangle between the back four where you're running back into the penalty spot to clear passes. I love that, but he's brave. And he's getting everyone around him to be brave as well. If you're going to play on the biggest stage, which is the World Cup, and you're going to co-host games in Toronto and Vancouver, you need someone to build around, and that's what he brings.
Okay, so if we're going to operate under the assumption that Eustaquio is a lock, let's ask the question then, and we did ask the question then, who's going to start beside him? And this one wasn't quite as close as the question of Alphonso Davies' position. We ask, who should partner Stefan Eustaquio in Canada's midfield? Over half responded with Ismail Kone. Rye Ireland on Instagram says, I'd like to see Kone in top form again. I think he's best suited, but if it started tomorrow, I think it would be Saliba, which isn't a downgrade by any means. Saliba's rising so fast, so stoked for the kids, says Peg City Cam. Zachary Ashley, hot take, Canada really needs a set-piece specialist that will play alongside Eustaquio. I believe Saliba and Choinière could be the difference makers. Mark Spoka also says Saliba, and I want to highlight this, Damiano Cotoya says Alessandro Pijab-Rapport. I mean, he's been fantastic, but as you can see, he hasn't cracked this list yet, and that is who Stefan Eustaquio has played with under Jesse Marsh. Jordan 8 times alongside Ismail Kone, thrice with Choinière, twice with Oso, once with Saliba, and not yet with Nico Segur. Are you going off the board, Alessandro Pijab-Rapport, or are you sticking to the men on our page right here?
Shout out to Pijab-Rapport. I'd love to talk about him for the next 2 minutes, but I'm going to talk about Kone and the fact that you look at the midfield, and the biggest thing that sticks out, specifically when you have a two-man midfield, has to be chemistry. You put people together, partners together that complement each other. So what does Eustaquio do well? He reads the play, he sits in front of that back four, he sprays passes. Yes, he can go forward and disrupt play, but the biggest attribute is that he reads the game and he stays like your deep-lying playmaker. But you need someone that can produce a moment. And I think what we've seen right now with Ismail Kone is that he has that moment, but sometimes it's been fleeting, and sometimes he's chosen the wrong moment to show some of the right things that he can bring. But if he can stay consistent, if he could show Marsh that, hey, I'm disciplined and that I'm reliable, I think he's the perfect guy to do that because he can do things in the midfield that no one else can, which is just skip by a player, which is create a moment, which is a 2v1, whatever that situation is. I like Saliba, I like Chouanier. These are also great options. Seager as well is showing his quality. But if Kone is playing to 85, 90% of his ability, he's miles ahead of everyone else just with what he can do on the ball. And for me, that's why I love him in that spot.
I agree with a lot of that. The ceiling of Kone is far higher than a lot of everybody else on that list. But what is Kone as a player? Like, what's his position? Because we're having this debate. Jesse Marsh plays 4-4-2. Are we comfortable going into a World Cup match with Eustaquio and Kone playing as a 2 in central midfield? Like, they played there in Copa America, and he got dropped. And his best games were in third-place games. Like, against Uruguay, was very good in that game. I agree with all of that. I watched Kone play for Sassuolo in the Coppa Italia. He essentially played as a 10 and then as an 8 out of possession. And then he had Berardi out wide. He just hugged the touchline. And so the left back had to go to him, and it just opened up space for him to go and press. And when he's free and he can make runs into the box and everything is fine, but he's got to work for an entire year on his tactical discipline to get Jesse Marsh and his coaching staff to trust him again in big moments and in those games. And the maturity of him as a player is crucial this year because Jesse Marsh didn't play him a minute against Guatemala in a massive game. Everything that you just said is right, but he didn't get 1 minute on the pitch in a quarterfinal of a Gold Cup. So, you know, for me, I think that's why it's open. Like, do you play him with Eustaquio and with Saliba or Sigor? Can you play a 3 in there? That's a different discussion. But I understand why everybody wants Kone in there, but at the moment it comes down to where do you fit all the pieces within the shape.
Well, Jordan, let's have that discussion then. Okay. Can you play a 3? Is there time to try a 3 before the World Cup? Because 4-4-2 has been Jesse Marsh with Canada. Can they evolve into a 3?
Of course they can, but do I think it's likely? I don't think it's likely. And I think what will get Kone on the pitch to what will have him starting on the bench is if he can do all the things that Jesse Marsh has been telling him to do, but still be himself. And that's what he's fighting with. Look, I don't know him personally, but when I watch him play, he has that magic moment. But that's also to his detriment as well, KJ, is because there's that trust factor. When you look at a coach, he says, this is what I want my team to do. And anyone who falls outside the line, it's easy, it's glaring. You're like, look, you shouldn't be doing that. And that's maybe take you out. And when you have a Chouanier and a Saliba that are doing all the things in training, but also match day when it matters, then you're like, look, I'll sacrifice a Rolls Royce, because that's what he is. Kone can do things that most players can't. But if he can't fall into the system when it's time, then he's going to be sacrificed, and that's just what it is.
You can fit him into the system if you play a little bit more of 3.
Yeah.
Because it gives him a little bit more of that freedom, like I saw for Sassuolo. Like, can they play 3? Yeah. I think they should.
They can, but they won't. I don't think they will.
Should they?
If they play a knockout game in a World Cup and we're going ahead of ourselves, and boy, oh boy, how magic would that be? Like, that's just like...
You said it, eh? You have to.
Come on.
The goose pimples.
It's emotion. It's emotional. No? I mean, this is a team that's never won a game in a World Cup, and we're trying to dream of them getting through a group game and having a knockout match. It's emotional. But I would say if they're playing a knockout game in a World Cup, and you think about how World Cups are decided with such small moments and small margins, a lot of goals from set pieces, a lot of goals from crosses and headers, and a lot of goals from open play, counter-attack transitions, which suits this team. It might just take that one goal. It might take that keeping everything solid, winning a game 0-0 and winning on penalties. It's lots of different ways that you can get through that game. That I understand why Jesse wants the 4-4-2, but for me, you got to have that midfield control at the highest level. And that's why I would think that Kone's evolution and tactical development in Italy is so crucial to making Jesse think outside the box on those things.
Well, Jordan, one of the reasons this conversation is so important is we saw what happened with the midfield in Qatar. And if you're Jesse Marsh, do you maybe watch back Croatian? Obviously, you're not going to go rile up the manager. That lesson's been learned. Do you see that and say, maybe we do need to be a bit more outside the box?
I think it all matters about, well, the biggest thing you bring up when you talk about formation, right, is when you build this team, I think we already talked about the back 4, but then there's a glaring piece with Eustaquio, and then the biggest piece is Jay David, right, which is essentially playing a 2, but it's kind of like a 10, but he needs someone to play and do the dirty work and feed off of. So that's where it gets into, and that's why it's a blurred line for me, because you still need someone to do that 8 role, to break up play, but to also go forward, but to be disciplined. So someone, Chouanier, Saliba, Kone, Like, if I'm missing someone, forgive me.
Eustaquio could play there,
Like,
could play a 6.
someone needs to do that. And that's why I'm saying that's because you still need David to partner with someone, so he's essentially a 10. So I don't think you're playing a team where you have David as the only lone striker and another midfielder. I mean, I know you're pushing. Yeah, I wouldn't do it. But, again, that's probably for another State of the Squad show if we had a part 2.
State of the Squad.
I'm sure we've got a few months. I'm sure we'll have another one.
Like, that's a lot of tweaking that I just don't know if we have the time for. We, as Jesse Marsh and company for the Canadians men's national team. That's a lot. That's a lot of changes.
All right, we'll park this now. I know KJ could talk about midfielders all night, but we do have to get to the top of the pitch and talk about wingers and strikers and all that fun stuff. Coming up next, just as the Canadian Championship is coming up very shortly, you want to talk about 9s in this competition. How about Brian White for Vancouver Whitecaps? How about Sammy Salter for Atletico Ottawa? Leg 2s, all to play for. The Canadian Championship lives on one side. To the top of the pitch when we return to Matchnight.
This ultimate mouth-watering moment is brought to you by the big, bold, ultimate taste of Ultimate Chicken Hot Dogs, only from Maple Lodge Farms.
Canadian soccer fans, we're different. We cheer on the Reds while cheering out our motherlands and each other's lands. Soccer is in our hearts. Our roots are on display, not to divide, but to unite. Because to us, soccer's more than just a game. It's who we are. From coast to coast to coast, it connects us all. Cheers to us. Cheers to the game.
The big stuff. Who do you think you are, Mr. Big Stuff? You're never gonna get my love. Just who do you think you are?
For too long, we've been told that greatness comes from somewhere else. Sorry, that ends now. We are the Canadian Premier League, proudly built for you and by you across this sovereign land, ready to take on the beautiful game on our terms. We may be young, but give us time and underestimate us at your peril. We'll keep grinding until everyone knows exactly who we are. Rosters filled with homegrowns, Canadian kids who just needed a chance, with dreams as vast as our horizons, made right here in Canada for all the world to see. Season 7 is here. We are the Canadian Premier League. Get stuck in.
Your kids will need binders, pens, athletic shoes.
This is intense. How are you so calm?
I'm ordering everything from Walmart.
Glue.
Do you have a spare pen? Talk to me in 2 hours.
Pencil.
We're still gonna be here.
Unicorn eraser.
I thought Jonathan did a great job at the Gold Cup. And if you would have seen his overall mentality, his ability to communicate with the team, with individual players, the discussions that he and I were able to have, I think he exceeded my expectations as filling in as the captain. And it was just a little bit unfortunate that we weren't able to continue to go so that he could have found a way to help us raise a trophy.
Okay, last but certainly not least, on the State of the Squad, the special edition of Match Night. Strikers, wingers, the attack. That's what we want to talk about now. Jonathan David, first name on the team sheet right now, certainly with Alphonso Davies out injured. Starting to see him get some minutes with Juve. That's been very exciting. But there's been a changing of the guard in some ways with Jonathan David and Kyle Larin. We're starting to see the Icemen play with different types of players. Daniela Washai has started 5 times alongside Joe David. They've scored 11 goals as a team when that's been the duo. There's been the Davids, 2 starts and 6 team goals. And Jonathan David and Kyle Larin. Jordan, it's like the old safety blanket, the comfort blanket. It's tattered maybe there's a couple holes in it, but you still reach for it. Is it time to retire the blanket?
Hold on, you're speaking from experience though. I feel like
there's some trauma. I know there's a little bit of trauma there.
I'm not quite sure. Look, I have a lot to say, but KJ, I really want you to start us off with this one. Because,
Me?
Yeah, like because the reason why, I just want you to just lay down the foundation first about these guys, because I have so much to say about the strikers. Like, I could go on for days about them.
What are you waiting for?
Okay, let's do it.
So you want cameras and you want to host the show too?
No, I don't want to do that.
Sorry,
I just thought KJ was going to put
Please.
some stuff out first.
No, but we have a poll. Do you want to see the poll?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Let's show the poll. Let's show the poll. This is the People's Show,
Okay, cool.
the state of the squad.
Yeah.
Because this one was an interesting poll, right? So like that's going to give us a jumping off point.
Number.
Okay, so who should start, or who should partner, pardon me, Jonathan David in attack for Canada? 69% of you said that the nicest partnership was Joe David and Promise David, or the Daves, as Ill Will 403 calls them. Resounding, by the way, from the supporters, Zeller's Z Points, shout out, excellent handle. Promise, it should be Promise. Handy Andy says Promise David, and 50-50 says Promise David. Taniel Wishai got 16 points. KJ, Kyle Larin is third on that list.
I've got a lot to say, but I'm not getting it.
Can one of you say something?
The man to my right.
Can one of the analysts analyze?
I will get to Larin. Go ahead.
I have a lot to say. I think Larin gets a lot of disrespect. I'm going to start calm. Quickly. I think Larin gets a lot of disrespect. A lot.
Does he ever?
A lot. Like a lot. Too much for me. And people are so quickly, and this is what happens. I can go on about in the world right now how you just quickly want to move from one thing to the next. Respect this man and respect his movement 100%. And the fact that he's locked in and can do a job absolutely for this country. But what I really want to say, the headline, the 69% that you see from Promise David, I said weeks before, whenever we had a show about him, to unleash him. But how I really feel is if you're trying to take over a city, you're trying to knock down buildings, do you really leave Godzilla on the bench? You don't. You make sure that you free him and he's able to do the stuff that he needs to do. But when I look at Jefferson, Larin, Oluwaseyi, Promise David, it's all about this year, KJ. Like, it's hard to say who I love when you have to have that form going into June. That is imperative. So, of course, I could say Promise. I would love to have seen him play more this past summer, and I think he could be the guy that connects things. And if he just has a moment, when I'm thinking out about being a defender, who I would fear the most, it'd be Promise. But it's all about this year and who really shines the most.
I like where you went there, because I think with strikers in particular, it's the form that's the most important.
Has to be.
Right? We talked a lot about the different positions, and we want Kone to play a lot, and certainly we want Derek to play a lot, and we want to get Moyes back and get them ready. But I think they know that when they put them to play that first game of the World Cup, we know what we're going to get out of them. But I think we've seen enough covering the sport, and I've been blessed to do it for a long time, that forwards are up and down, and the strikers. I mean, let's talk Kyle Larin. He wasn't himself this summer. Why wasn't he himself this summer? Because he's been playing for such a negative team in Spain that he barely gets a touch on the ball, and he's lost his confidence, right? He scored 1 goal in 20 games under Jesse Marsh, right? This is a player that went through a period of time where he scored 17 in 24. And I'm with you, by the way. He's got 11 1-0 goals for Canada. This man scored a goal. I was in the stadium in Frisco when this country was on its knees after getting beat by Jamaica, and they weren't even going to make the Copa America. And that game was so nervous that everyone forgets about it now. Yeah. He got that goal that got everyone to have that wonderful summer to get them to Copa America.
Big finish.
A massive, important goal at that moment. And he's done that time and time again. And the other thing about Kyle is that it's been proven that he and Jonathan David work really well together. Their numbers are outstanding. And I know everyone wants to talk about goals, but it needs to be said that in the international game, you strip down Jonathan David's numbers, and they're brilliant, by the way, but strip them down apart from the really, really minnows when he played in the World Cup qualifiers, he's 1 in every 3. So what do we want from, like, it's hard to score international goals, okay? And he's going through a rough time at club, and he's going to get that sorted out, and he's going a rough time here. But it's clear that the confidence level, he needs to find it. I want to see the Kyle Larin with his shoulders high and bullying teams and have the body language out there and be confident and brash. And the Kyle Larin I only saw there this year was in the summer, and it was in a press conference. And he got named captain before Ivory Coast, and he sat next to Jesse Marsh, and Jesse Marsh went on like he was a boxing promoter about to put a heavyweight fighter in the ring. Because the way that he talked about Kyle Larin being the foundational leader, following his blueprint, being mentally strong and confident, that was the Kyle Larin that he needs now, that Jesse Marsh talked up at that moment. And I think that number, that percentage, probably reflects that Canada have just seen how he's been out of form the last few months.
I want to jump in and play devil's advocate. I don't want to open this can of worms. I think 2022 Qatar, Canada surprisingly makes it to the World Cup. There's this piece of like, well, Milan Borjan's been so important to get us to where we are now. Kyle Laren's big piece of the team. Atiba Hutchinson, no question. Like those were the moments you celebrate. Do you not fear that if there's, well, he's done past tense, so much for country that we can't just discard him now? This is a big moment. We've been gearing up for it when form is so important for strikers. So if Jesse Marsch goes to him for Romania-Wales and he's invisible, lackluster, say he has a poor camp, is it not time to say, okay, we need to give a run to players that might take us to something more special in the North American?
I think they're already doing that. He didn't start a game in the Gold Cup. So I think they're already doing that to the point of your poll.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, no, for sure. And like I've said it weeks past, and people are kind of shocked, and I wasn't discrediting and counting out Kyle Laren. I think if he has a good season, I'd favor him to start. That doesn't mean that I promise David or Jebison or Oluwaseyi won't go in and do bits for Canada. But I just think about the tactical blueprint. I think about the way Jesse Marsch wants to play, and he's not shaking it up for anyone. He's not cutting corners and saying, oh, well, you don't have to press. He wants everyone to be on the front foot, making waves and making things difficult for the opposition. So someone who understands that tactical blueprint the most today is still Kyle Laren. Now,
by
a margin, it's still Kyle Laren. People don't want to hear that because it's like, oh, well, he's older, he doesn't score goals. Which, by the way, someone who's 30, you still produce magical moments. Like, everyone's thinking, as soon as you hit 30, you can't do that anymore. I understand the love of Promise David. I think he's class. I understand the love of all these
why, Jordan? So if you're getting 70% of the supporters, and every time he's not getting minutes, you can hear the pitchforks sharpening from in the studio, where is that appeal? What is it about this person who still is at the beginning of his Canadian career that is so intoxicating to the supporters that they would put him so high on the list?
About Promise?
Yes.
Yeah, it's because of how he moves. The fact that he's 6'5" and he can score goals. He had a heck of a season in Belgium. And when people think about Promise David, they think about this. Maybe not having the best game against Ukraine, but has a moment. I kind of talked about it a bit in terms of putting on my shoes if I was a defender. If I'm going against Kyle Laren, I'm like, okay, I don't want this guy in the box, KJ, because then he could bully me. He's good with his movement. But if I'm going to have nightmares about any player outside of Jay David, it would be Promise David. The way that he could just move, bully you, and the fact that he is just uninhibited, this is what people want to see. But does that fit perfectly into Jesse Marsch's system? He has 9 months to really make the case, but that's why everyone's so excited, is because about his profile and what he brings. But again, it's about finding the right piece to start the tournament.
He is a unique profile, and I think if he's ready to play, we should see a moment in this next window where both him and Jonathan play together. I think that they'll want to see that, and I think the country wants to see that. They've done it twice. One game when he came off at half-time against Ukraine because he got hurt, and one game against 9 men.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen anything in the body of evidence to think if these guys can play together yet.
Okay, 90 seconds, have to go quick, but a word on the wingers. Tajon Buchanan is back from his injury. He seems to be in a better club place. It seems like we're getting closer to that confident Tajon again. What do you make of him, and perhaps who could flank him on the other side?
Yeah, I mean, for me, Tajon is as close to a lock. He's not quite there, but, you know, I've locked about 6 players tonight in that 11 already, and I think he might be the 7th.
Yeah.
I think, you know, again, back to what we said about Alistair Johnson, Canada is better when Tajon's on the pitch. And I spoke to him a lot about this. He understands that responsibility, that he knows that without him on the field, Canada can only get so far. He can elevate them, and he brings pace. We saw what he did to Ukraine, some really top-class international defenders there.
Yeah.
So, you know, we want him playing consistently, and I think, you know, for me, he's the best of the bunch on the wide players.
KJ is the best player in Qatar for me, hands down, no question. It was great to see him this summer, Tajon, to get back to that swagger and playing free and just wanted to express himself and run at players. Also love the left side as much as I think Davies might do. Okay, so say Jesse Marsch doesn't listen to little old me, Liam Miller coming back, Ahmed. There's so many options as well that could be more than competent to play that role and to play that high-pressing system that Marsch likes.
All right, well, it's just about time to go. I will get a detailed review from Gareth Wheeler of all the things I did wrong and missed. I know he's...
No, well, not at you. He's going to get at us.
You did really well, man.
God, I should have started the show looking for compliments. What did you think, KJ? We get a little interactive. We're on YouTube Live, chatting with the folks over there as well.
That's what we want. You know, we want people to understand that their voice is just as important as ours. I love reading the comments, and I love listening to them and enjoying what they want to say. It's important.
I love footy because everyone's a manager at home. Everyone. Oh, this player should play here, invert, oh, right back. You can always have conversations. I love this. Football is that only job where everyone at home feels like they can do it. I
said this to somebody within the squad this week, that it shows the pulse of the country and how much they care when people are talking either very negative about a player or positive. And there was once a time where there was just nothing about this. So, look, here we are in this wonderful country, 9 months away from the greatest tournament being kicked off in this country, talking about the state of the squad, and long may that continue.
Exciting.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do this again. Like AJ says, we have 9 months. If you want to see more of it, put it down in the comments. Let us know. If there's overwhelming demand, then maybe Gareth can sit in the chair for State of the Squad 2.0. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Romania, Wales, beautiful Swansea. Should it have been in Cardiff? Probably. Am I biased? Yes. Am I jealous that KJ might be going and I'm not? Also, yes, but that's for our conversation. Ton of fun, boys. Really did enjoy this. We will also have more CPL tonight, Saturday, and Sunday. Full slate, so don't change the channel. Christian Jack and Jordan Wilson, I've been Adam Jenkins. Thanks for joining us on a special edition of Match Day.
Think of all the stories that have started right here. Honeymoons. Long overdue honeymoons. Seeing the baby.
Ooh.
Vegas baby. The people named Doug.
I'm Doug.
Making that seismic shift from work mom to vacation mom. Whatever brought you here, whether you're starting your